Here's a simple illustration of what I've just discussed above, and you can see how I've worked through it in the console in Chrome. What I've done here is I've declared a variable name and I've set it to a string, which is my name, Curtis. And then when I log my name, it returns Curtis. Very straightforward. This is a primitive data type. Now the interesting thing is that when JavaScript, since it's loosely typed, is working with primitives, you can use methods that are specific to built-in objects, like in this case, the string object, to manipulate that primitive. So in this line here, you can see that I use the toUpperCase method of the string object that's built into JavaScript, and it will convert the primitive to uppercase. And so what I'm doing is just using that method to manipulate the primitive string. But it still remains a string. It doesn't change. It's not going to convert to an object. That's why you'll hear the term that primitives are immutable. You can't just convert them to objects. Now here what I'm doing is I'm actually creating an object, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the coming weeks, probably next week or 2 weeks. Here I'm declaring a variable, name2, and I'm setting it to a new string. So I'm actually creating a string object utilizing the new keyword, and I'm setting that string. I'm passing the argument Mike to the string object, saying that I want this object to include the or contain the properties and methods of the string Mike. And so you can see some differences here immediately in the console, and that when I create this new string object, that the console shows me that this string object has properties like the length, and that if we can think of the string sort of as an array, if you will, that the first character within the object is set to 0 or in that index 0, and the second is index 1, etc. And so this object has both methods and properties. Another thing you'll note is that objects are usually enclosed in curly brackets, and so you see the string Mike is enclosed in curly brackets. We can use the type of operator in JavaScript, and what that does is it lets us test or get the or return the data type that the operator sees as its operand. So for example, we're using the type of operator here, and I want to know the type of object or the type of thing, you can think of it that way, that name is. So in this case, name is just that simple string, and we see it's a string, right? But when we use the type of operator and we pass it name2, then it tells us it's an object. So there's some distinct differences. And so it can get confusing. One of the reasons we would use the new keyword is creating our own objects and not having to just use primitives. And so we'll take a close look at that later, but there was some confusion, and hopefully I didn't confuse you any further. If you have any questions, keep posting them to the questions forum.